You hear a sound across the dry savanna grass. It is a sharp click. The sound is followed by a low hum. Someone is looking directly at you. Someone is trying to get your attention. How do you know they mean you? For your entire life, you have recognized yourself by a specific collection of sounds. It is your name. You assume this is a fundamental part of being human. You identify yourself with this word every single day. But for 99% of human history, a name was not a simple label on a birth certificate. What purpose did a name actually serve when there were no documents or databases? Today, the average person knows hundreds of different names and stores thousands of contacts in a digital device. You carry an identity card that proves you exist to people who have never met you. You are defined by an administrative code. Your ancestors lived in a completely different reality. They lived in small, tight groups of 30 to 50 people. Why would you even need a specific name when you already know every single face around the campfire? To understand this, you have to step back 300,000 years. You are walking across the dusty plains of Pleistocene Africa. The sun beats down on your bare skin. Your group is moving toward a distant water source. You communicate through gestures, soft grunts, and mimicry of the animals around you. Is this the exact moment when the first true name is spoken? Probably not. The evolution of language is not a sudden spark. It is a slow, biological burn that reshapes the anatomy of your throat and the wiring of your brain. Your voice box, the larynx, drops lower in your throat compared to other primates. This simple biological shift allows your tongue to move in entirely new ways. You can suddenly produce a massive variety of distinct vowels and consonants. Why did your body prioritize this dangerous anatomical change, which actually makes it much easier for you to choke on your food? The answer lies in survival. Your brain is growing larger, and your social networks are becoming incredibly complex. You can no longer rely on picking bugs out of each other's hair to maintain friendships. The evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar points out that primates use physical grooming to build trust. But physical grooming takes far too much time when your group grows past 50 individuals. How do you keep the group united when you do not have enough hours in the day to touch everyone? You begin to use vocal grooming. You use sounds to comfort, warn, and identify the people around you. You develop specific tones for specific individuals. This is the very first shadow of a name. It is not a formal title yet. It is a unique auditory signature. Have you ever noticed how you can recognize a loved one just by the sound of their footsteps or a simple throat clearing? Your ancestors operate on this exact same frequency of deep, intimate recognition. As time passes, your cognitive abilities take a massive leap forward. You discover a site like Blombos Cave in South Africa, dating back roughly 73,000 years. Archaeologists digging in this cave find pieces of red ochre stone carved with deliberate, geometric crosshatch patterns. These are not accidental scratches. They are symbols, representing an idea that exists outside of the physical object itself. If your ancestors can assign abstract meaning to a rock, what stops them from assigning abstract meaning to a person? Symbolic thought changes everything about how you interact with your world. A specific sound no longer just mimics a bird or a warning of a predator. A specific sound now represents a specific human being, even when that human being is completely out of sight. You can talk about a hunter who is miles away. You can coordinate gathering efforts by assigning roles to specific individuals before you even leave the camp. How powerful is it to summon a person's presence simply by vibrating the air in your throat? This completely alters the dynamic of human cooperation. When you can name someone, you can track their behavior over long periods of time. You can remember who shared their meat last week and who held back. You develop a reputation. A name becomes a vessel that holds your entire social history, your reliability, and your value to the survival of the group. Do you realize that your name is actually the world's first credit score? Let us look at how this plays out in a real hunter-gatherer society. In 1963, the anthropologist Richard Lee travels to the Kalahari Desert to live with the Jew/Hoansi, a group of San people. These people live in a way that closely mirrors your deep ancestral past. Lee observes an incredibly complex and beautiful naming system among the Jews/Hoansi. They do not just invent random words for their children. How do they decide what to call a new member of the tribe? They use a very strict set of inherited names. A firstborn son is always named after his paternal grandfather. A firstborn daughter is named after her paternal grandmother. Subsequent children are named after other specific relatives. There is a limited pool of names circulating through the entire population. You do not get a unique name to express your special individuality. You get a name that firmly anchors you into a massive, interlocking web of social obligation. Because there are only so many names, many people share the exact same name. The Jew/Hoansi solve this by using nicknames based on physical traits, habits, or significant life events. You might be called Short Coma to distinguish you from Tall Coma. But the shared name serves a brilliant survival purpose. If you share a name with someone, you are considered to be intrinsically linked to them. Do you see how this creates a safety net across the unforgiving desert? If you travel to a distant camp where you know absolutely no one, you are normally in extreme danger. But if you find someone in that camp who shares your name, they are culturally obligated to treat you as family. They must share their fire, their water, and their food with you. Your name is a universal passport. It guarantees you shelter and protection in a world where isolation means certain death. How many modern people would open their homes to a complete stranger just because they share the same first name? The concept of naming is deeply tied to the firelight. When the sun goes down, your ancestors gather around the dancing flames. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner spends decades studying the conversations of hunter-gatherers around the campfire. She discovers that daytime talk is mostly about logistics, economics, and complaints. But nighttime talk is completely different. What happens when the darkness pushes the group close together around the warmth of the fire? The night is for storytelling. It is for tracing lineages, recounting past hunts, and talking about people who are not there. Names are spoken softly into the dark air. Wiesner notes that firelight conversations are the absolute core of social regulation. When your name is spoken around the fire, your reputation is either being built or dismantled. You want your name associated with generosity, bravery, and fairness. If your name becomes associated with selfishness or hoarding, you face the most terrifying punishment known to ancient humans. You face social exile. Without the group, you cannot hunt enough calories to survive, and you cannot sleep without being eaten by nocturnal predators. Your name is a fragile thing that you must constantly polish through your actions. Are you starting to understand why you care so much about what other people think of you today? Let us recreate a specific day to see how this naming psychology functions. You wake up on the edge of a dense forest. The morning air is sharp and cold. You are preparing for a major hunt. There are 5 of you, and you must coordinate silently once you enter the thick brush. You do not use your vocal cords once you are tracking the prey. You use elaborate hand signals to identify each other and the animals. But when the hunt is successful, the silence breaks. You bring down a large antelope. Blood is on your hands. Adrenaline floods your system. The group returns to camp dragging the heavy meat. Now, the vocalization begins. The sharing of the meat is a highly ritualized process. The anthropologist James Sussman observes that among ancient groups, the person who made the fatal arrow does not actually own the meat. The meat belongs to the owner of the arrow, who might have simply traded it to the hunter days ago. How does the group keep track of all these invisible debts and credits? They use names. They loudly announce who is receiving which cut of the animal. Your name is called out, and you are handed a rich piece of fat. By accepting it, you are publicly acknowledging a debt that you will repay in the future. The calling of your name in front of the entire camp is a binding social contract. It is a public ledger recorded entirely in the memories of the people watching. Your identity in this world is incredibly fluid. Today, you are given one name at birth, and it stays on your driver's license until you die. But in the deep past, your name can change depending on your stage of life. When you are a child, you might have a gentle, descriptive nickname. When you pass through a painful initiation right into adulthood, you might receive a new, secret name. Why would your society force you to shed your old identity? Because the group needs you to understand that the child is dead and the responsible adult has arrived. The new name carries new heavy burdens. You are no longer allowed to act selfishly. You are now a fully initiated hunter or gatherer. If you achieve something extraordinary, like surviving a lion attack or finding water during a severe drought, the group might give you yet another name to honor that event. Your name is a living document of your achievements. Consider the genetic evidence of how deeply embedded this need to communicate identity truly is. Scientists isolate a specific gene called FOXP2. This gene is crucial for the development of normal speech and language in humans. When they look at the DNA of Neanderthals, extracted from ancient bones found in places like the Cima de los Huesos in Spain, they find that Neanderthals share this exact same variant of the FOXP2 gene. Did Neanderthals have names for each other, too? The evidence strongly suggests they did. Neanderthals are highly intelligent hominins. They hunt massive, dangerous game like mammoths at close range. They care for their sick and elderly, sometimes for years after a severe injury. You cannot coordinate an ambush on a 2-ton woolly rhinoceros without precise communication. You cannot care for a disabled group member without recognizing their specific individual value. Neanderthals almost certainly look at each other and speak distinct, personal identifiers. But there is a twist to this story that completely contradicts how you think about identity. You view your name as your personal property. It is the core of your individual self. You fiercely defend it. But for your ancestors, your name does not actually belong to you. It belongs to the group. The group gives it to you, and the group can take it away. What happens if you consistently break the rules of the camp? If you become a tyrant, or if you refuse to share food, the group will first try to mock you. They will alter your name. They will turn it into a joke to deflate your ego. If you ignore the mockery and continue to hoard resources, they will stop using your name entirely. They will act as if you do not exist. This is a practice called social death. When nobody speaks your name, you are effectively erased from the tribe before your heart even stops beating. Agriculture eventually changes everything. When humans start settling down in permanent villages about 12,000 years ago, populations explode. You are suddenly living with hundreds and then thousands of people. You can no longer memorize the reputation of every single person in the village. You need a new way to identify strangers. This is when names shift from being a record of your personality to a record of your location and your job. You become John the Smith. You become Mary from the Hill. Names become bureaucratic tools to track taxes, land ownership, and inheritance. The deep, intimate connection between your name and your survival reputation is severed. Your name becomes a rigid label used by kings and early states to ensure you pay your share of the grain harvest. The beautiful, fluid naming networks of the Kalahari are replaced by rigid family trees designed to protect property. Today, you type your name into digital forms thousands of times a year. You use it to log into bank accounts and social media profiles. You use it to stand out in a massive, crowded world of 8 billion strangers. You desperately want your name to be recognized and remembered. But the irony is that in your modern quest for individual fame, you have completely lost the original purpose of having a name. Your ancestors did not use names to stand out. They used names to fit in. They used names to weave themselves so tightly into the fabric of the group that they could never fall through the cracks. A name was a promise that you would not be left behind when the winter came or the water dried up. You hear a sound across the dry savanna grass. It is a sharp click, followed by a low hum. It is your identity, given to you by the people who need you to survive.